I am not an AI filmmaker. I am someone trying to learn how to use AI in filmmaking. For me personally, I believe that being a filmmaker is having the ability to carry a narrative for 90 or 120 or even 100 minutes. And that's an entirely different beast to cutting something for 20 seconds or for a minute or two. I created a short film purely using AI called Unseen a while ago, and it was always the intention that it would be an experiment, but it turned into something very different. My idea was to explore what's possible using AI in terms of character consistency, because in my opinion that was the biggest shortfall at this point. And then just to, from a creative perspective, to see how closely the adherence would be from the prompt to the actual generation. So those were the two outcomes that I was looking for when starting my project. But during the process, it became very clear that there were so many things that I did not anticipate. And it's like any skill where once you start developing that skill, you unearth more things that you don't know. Here are the three things that I've learned during the production of my short film Unseen. One is the cutting floor. Now, I am in film, I am a filmmaker. I've worked, especially as an editor, I've worked on documentaries, feature films, reality shows, broadcast shows, you name it, corporates, animations, I've done the work. So the cutting floor ratio varies anywhere from 4:1 when you're shooting really tight, up to 30:1 when we're working on a feature film. I came across a post where the cutting ratio was 64:1, and it was almost the first time that someone made an honest comment about working with AI, because it's relatively close to my experience as well. My ratio is probably sitting somewhere between 15 to 20:1, and a lot of times I had to choose the most usable shot because I was running out of budget. Not necessarily the shot that I want, but the shot that was usable. And that made me compromise on more shots that I would have liked had I had more budget. So that was the first learning from this film. The second topic that I came across was you still need to be able to adapt your story. I can't tell you how many times I came across shots that just didn't work. Simple shots. The most frustrating shot for me was trying to generate a service bell that rings. Someone walks past, they tap on the service bell, and the service bell would ring. And for some reason, the mechanics inside of the service bell just didn't translate into a render, where I probably ended up around 20-25 renders, and not a single one of them was even in the vicinity of being usable. So I had to adapt my entire script. I had to write out the service bell as a motif, and I ended up using almost static shots of a service bell with people walking around in the background, and I had to use the audio as cues that the service bell had been rung. But I couldn't get the mechanic to work. So there's still a long ways for AI in certain shots. And my takeaway was that you, as a filmmaker or as a content creator, need to be able to adapt your story when you come across these kinds of hurdles. The third one that I came across, and this was probably my biggest learning, is as we stand now, AI generation isn't necessarily faster. The same basic principles apply. The more time you spend in pre saves you time in post. That still rings very true. The better you plan, the less time you're going to spend generating. The better your reference images are, the less time you're going to spend generating. So my recommendation to any aspiring people who are just starting is double the time that you're currently spending on your pre-production. It's going to be worth it in the end, because once you start hitting those 20 and 30 generations and you're still stuck at zero, it does become disheartening because you don't know when you're going to come across that render that works. A production that I thought would take a week ended up taking 4 weeks. Yes, it was a great learning curve. Yes, it was a pet project, so it didn't have an impact on any real timelines like budgetary constraints or deliverables for a client. But the next project might have those challenges. And I think for me, that's one of the big takeaways is when we go into the world of paid content, then we need to know what those parameters are. And at least for me, that was my experience. Now, again, there are people that spend generating content for years, and they might have created a workflow where they are capable of delivering within certain time frames. But for me and my personal experience, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of iterations to get to a shot, and the ability to tell stories and carry a narrative is still, for me, the most important element to telling stories. So I'm looking forward to my next project. I'm going to try and implement all of these learnings into my next short film, and I will provide you with another honest recap of my experience during that film, and hopefully I'll have more positive news than negative news. But this has been a humbling experience, but very much a learning experience, and I look forward to expanding on that in the next one.